You've heard the word metabolism thrown around a ton, right? But what does it actually mean? I'll give you a hint. It's so much more than just about weight. Think of it as the master engine that powers literally everything you do. And today, we're going to pop the hood and see how it all works. I mean, think about it. Your body is this incredible, super complex system. You've got organs, hormones, and countless chemical reactions all firing off in perfect sync. It's pretty wild. And this whole intricate machine, it all runs on one single central power source. And yep, you guessed it, that power source is your metabolism. The easiest way to wrap your head around it is to just think of it like an engine. It takes the fuel you put in it, the food you eat, and turns it into the energy that keeps the whole show on the road. Everything from your brain firing off ideas to your heart beating in your chest. All right, so let's get into it. What is this engine really? Because I'll tell you right now, it is way more than just some simple calculator for calories in, calories out. It's literally the foundation of your entire health. Okay, at its core, the definition is pretty straightforward. Metabolism is just the grand total of all the chemical processes that convert food into energy, build and repair our bodies, and, keep us alive. It's the base level operating system for, well, everything. But just like any engine, sometimes things can go wrong. It can start to sputter, lose efficiency, maybe even send up a few warning signals that something's off. And this is where we start talking about a condition that, honestly, is becoming way too common. So what actually happens when this incredibly fine-tuned system gets knocked out of balance? Well, the consequences can be really serious, and they often show up together in a diagnosis called metabolic syndrome. Now, this is super important. Metabolic syndrome isn't one single disease. It's more like a collection, a cluster of risk factors. If you have at least 3 of the 5 conditions we're about to go through, that's when you meet the criteria. And that's when your risk for major problems like heart disease, stroke, and type 2 diabetes just skyrockets. So, think of these 5 signs like the warning lights flashing on your car's dashboard. First up, central obesity. We're talking about that excess weight right around your waist. Second, high triglycerides. That's a type of fat from food floating around in your blood. Third is low HDL, which you might know as the good cholesterol. Fourth, high blood pressure. And finally, number 5, high fasting blood sugar. Look, any one of these is a concern for sure. But when they start showing up together, that's a huge flashing red light that your metabolic engine needs a serious tune-up. And get this is not some rare, obscure problem. Not at all. In the US, about a quarter of all adults have metabolic syndrome. Let that sink in. That is 1 in every 4 people whose metabolic health is way off track, putting them at a much higher risk for really serious chronic diseases. Okay, but it's not all doom and gloom. Not even close. Here's the good news. You are absolutely not powerless here. There is a really clear, totally actionable playbook for taking back control of your metabolic health, and it's all built on 5 simple, fundamental principles. And they are: prioritize protein. Don't fear fats. Go with green. Think savory, not sweet. And add more movement. See, these aren't some crazy complicated rules. They're just basic principles that can literally start to retrain your metabolism, beginning with your very next meal. So let's dive in and break down how each one actually works. All right, first up, protein. This stuff is an absolute powerhouse for 2 big reasons. 1, it helps build muscle. And you can think of your muscles as a glucose sponge. They literally soak up excess sugar from your bloodstream. And 2, protein keeps you feeling full and satisfied for way longer, all without causing those big, crazy blood sugar spikes. Next on the list, fats. Yeah, I know, for decades, fat was made out to be the bad guy, right? But now we know that healthy fats are absolutely essential. We're talking about things like avocados, nuts, olive oil. They give you a nice, steady source of energy, they help your body absorb critical vitamins, and just like protein, they help you feel full without sending your glucose on a roller coaster. Number 3 is simple. Go with green. When you load up your plate with non-starchy veggies, think spinach, broccoli, that kind of stuff. It just naturally leaves less room for processed carbs. But the real magic here is the fiber. Fiber slows down your digestion, and that is key to preventing those sharp, nasty glucose spikes after a meal. And that brings us to a really simple but super powerful choice you can make every single day. Think savory, not sweet. I mean, a savory meal is just naturally going to be higher in protein, healthy fats, and fiber. A sweet one? It's usually packed with added sugars and refined carbs, the very things that put a ton of stress on your metabolic system. And last but not least, number 5, Add more movement, especially right after you eat. And look, we're not talking about some grueling hour-long workout here. A simple 10 or 20-minute walk after a meal is huge. It tells your muscles to immediately start pulling glucose from your bloodstream to use for energy. It is one of the single most effective ways to flatten out those glucose curves. Okay, so that's the playbook. But how do these fundamentals actually play out in the real world? Well, we can see them in action perfectly by comparing two super popular diets, keto versus the Mediterranean diet. So on one side, you've got keto. It's famous for being extremely low carb and very high fat. The whole idea is to force your body to burn fat for fuel instead of carbs. Then on the other side, you've got the Mediterranean diet. This one's really more of a balanced lifestyle. It's all about whole foods, and it definitely includes healthy carbs like whole grains and beans. And when you look at the food choices, the difference is pretty stark. Keto is all about meat, fish, cheese, oils, while cutting out almost all carbs. The Mediterranean diet, on the other hand, builds its foundation on a huge variety of plants. We're talking fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans, and then adds in moderate amounts of things like fish and chicken. So the big question is, which one is actually better for your metabolic health? A fascinating head-to-head study gave us a pretty clear answer. Now, both diets led to weight loss and better blood sugar. That's true. But the researchers found that the extreme carb cutting in keto came with a nutritional price tag. People on it were missing out on key vitamins and especially fiber. And why does that matter? Well, because things like fiber are crucial for fighting inflammation and keeping your gut healthy. Both are absolute pillars of long-term metabolic health. So in the end, the Mediterranean approach just offered a more complete and honestly more sustainable path. Okay, this brings us to the final piece of the puzzle. And it's a big one, because it's not just about making changes. It's about understanding the impact of those changes. It's about going from just knowing stuff to taking real informed action. The whole goal here is to create a personal feedback loop. It's simple. You make a change. Let's say you start taking that walk after dinner. Then you measure the effect, and then you repeat. You're constantly learning and tweaking things to figure out what works best for your unique body. And what's so cool is that today, we have these incredible tools that make this possible. I'm talking about things like biowearables and continuous glucose monitors, or CGMs. These things give you a direct, real-time window into your own metabolism. You can literally see right there on your phone how that specific meal or that exact walk is affecting your glucose levels. It completely takes the guesswork out of the equation and gives you precise, personalized data. So, if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this. Your metabolic engine isn't set in stone. Not at all. It's dynamic. It's constantly listening and responding to every single signal you send it, through your food, your movement, your whole lifestyle. It is always listening. So the only real question left is, what are you going to tell it to do next?